Self-medication might seem right at first, but we must consider the challenges, the risk it poses to our lives and well-being. On the show today, we will be discussing dangers of self-medication. Hello and welcome. I am Olujoke Mosako, and my guest for today is Dr. Nikki Gesh-Oye. She is a family nurse practitioner in California. So stay tuned and enjoy the rest of the show. Hello, doctor. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thank you so much for hosting me. I'm delighted to be on your show today. How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you. Starting with the first question, what is self-medication?
So self-medication will just be an act of you treating yourself. You're treating yourself without any guidance from a health professional, without any professional being in charge of the medication that you're taking. You're medicating yourself based on some symptoms that you may be experiencing.
Okay, so why do people self-medicate?
Oh yeah. We see this a lot in healthcare. People self-medicate for variety of reasons. Some people don't believe in wasting money by going to their doctors. All right. Some people don't even have access to care. Right. Some people don't have access to care. Imagine like people in the third world countries that don't have access to care, that they live remotely. They only know how to treat themselves. So they use different medications around them, different herbs, herbal remedies. Some people just don't believe in modern medicine. All right. Some people don't believe in modern medicine. Some people just feel like, they don't have the money to spend because they feel that the healthcare system is milking them. All right. So they feel like they can do better by themselves. That's just some of the reasons.
But this thing has been on for quite a while, whereby people get to do this a lot. I'm sure even while growing up, our parents did that to us. And especially with the use of the local herbs. And I actually got to know that even the local herbs, you have to be able to give a specific measurement in dispensing such a thing to a child or yourself. So what do you have to say in this aspect? Is that also dangerous too?
Yes. So a lot of people don't want to hear it, but yes, it is. And, I've mentioned this on my different social media platforms before. Self-medication has more disadvantages than disadvantages. It does. So with local herbs, I tell people, you keep taking all these remedies. You hear that, oh, okay, this one would help with, for example, a lot of men are guilty of taking herbs, for to improve their sexual performance, right? I don't know if you've heard about that back home.
Sure.
They say, oh, I'm going to take this one, that one, a lot of crazy stuff they mention, but they do not know what they put together when they take all this medication. They don't know all this concussion that this woman had mixed together and all that. And guess what? When they may see a temporary relief from what they want, like from what they're experiencing. So for example, if they're having symptoms and you take it, you may say, oh, wow, this worked. You may have that pleasure in, when you're doing this medication and you're drinking it and you feel, oh my, I'm energized now, I can go for it, I can satisfy my woman, right? But then what is the aftermath? What is the long-term effect of it? All right. So it may start, I've heard people take medications and they have heart attacks. I've heard people take medication and damages their kidneys because you don't know what all these things comprises of. And then the worst part of it is that if you're a person that has chronic medical conditions already, like diabetes, high blood pressure, cholesterol problems, heart problems, it can aggravate that. All right. When you take all these herbal remedies, all these self-medications, it can aggravate it and make it worse. And you see all these young people dying of kidney failure, kidney disease now. And that is so sad when you see all these things happening. Apart from lifestyle, like the smoking, the drinking, all of those, all these herbal remedies have their own side effects too. But people tend to dwell on the temporary relief and the joy they derive from it, but they forget about the long-term side effects of all this medication. So as I always say, I know that, back in the day, I probably took something that my parents already concocted for me to take, or my grandparents, I would say, all right, or even family and friends were used to it. And I even see some people that they send messages home for their parents to send these things to them here in America. But still it's the same thing. You drink all these things, you get good, you feel good at the moment, but then what are the long-term effects of all these things on your body? You don't know until it happens, and they say, wow, at 35 years old you're having kidney problems, at 35 years old you suffered a heart attack or you had a stroke. Then what is the cause of it? I'm not saying that this is the only thing that causes all these things, but it can contribute to it as well. So I'll say be very careful about what you put in your system. You put all these things in your system, and then when you end up in the hospital and they ask you, what did you take? So that they may rectify it, right? Mm-hmm. You don't even know what to tell them. You say an herbal remedy back home. What does it have in it? You don't know, right? For somebody to give you an antidote, right, for medication that you take, for example, to reverse, like for example, if you take ibuprofen and you start having GI bleeding, ulcer, bleeding because of its NSAIDs, right? If you go to the hospital, you tell them you took ibuprofen, but then when you take a herbal concussion, you're just gonna say, I don't know what I took. It's a mixture of herbs, right? So yeah. It's hard and it's tough to break this tradition. It's very tough to do so.
You've actually made mention of some few dangers inherent in self-medication. What are the other things that you've seen as a medical practitioner or you've heard about and are real?
Like in terms of the dangers of...
Yes, we want to hear more.
Drug interaction. Drug interaction is a huge one. So when I say drug interaction, it means that you took something and it reacts with something that you already taken. So when a lot of people take all these medications because you heard, so person took it, your family took it, your friends took it, and they felt good. They had a headache, they had a fever, and they took this medication. And now because I'm having a headache, I'm having fever, I'm going to take the medication too, right? Mm-hmm. How do you know that it's the same thing that person had that you had? You have, right? How do you know? How do you know that the way the person reacted to the medication is the same way you react to it? You may be allergic to that medication that person took. And that's why it's important for you to seek professional assistance, because a medication that may be good for me, as simple as Tylenol, and so people call it Panadol, right, in Africa. Mm-hmm. As simple as Tylenol, you may feel Tylenol is harmless, you know what I mean? But then if you have liver disease, there's a they already say on the package, if you have Tylenol, too much taking Tylenol can cause liver disease. The same thing with Motrin and ibuprofen. People just take it anyhow they want, but then it can cause ulcers, it can cause bleeding. And then you don't know that you're supposed to not take it on an empty stomach, right? But because somebody used it, you want to use it too. What if it's contraindicated for you? What if you're allergic to it? You don't know that. So interactions, the same thing. You take all these medications, then it's interacting with your blood pressure medication that a doctor puts you on. It's interacting with your diabetes medication, your cholesterol medication. It interacts. And then the same thing, we have drug-food interaction. So drug-food interaction is when you take a medication and interacts with certain things foods that you eat. So I don't know if you've heard, like the doctor would say, oh, do not take this particular antibiotic with so food, or take this with so food, or do not take this, do not drink alcohol while you're on this medication. All right. Do not take grapefruit juice while you're on this medication because they interact. But how would you know that when you're self-medicating? Because you just collected the drug from somebody, or you just found the drug because you heard that it worked and you started using it and you're drinking alcohol, so there's a lot of interaction going on and adverse reactions. Some people die from self-medication. You're trying to solve a problem, but then you're creating more problems for yourself. And that's why we always say, even though healthcare is very expensive, even though we know that a lot of people have whatever about modern care, modern healthcare and versus traditional, it's still safe for you to seek a professional to guide you. You know what I mean? It's still safe for you to do that than for you to just start taking medications on your own. And I'm not saying that at every minute of your life, if you have a headache right now, you should just run to a doctor. I'm not saying that. If you know that your headache is due to stress or just, overworking yourself, sure, you can take Tylenol if that Tylenol is okay for you. If you are not allergic to Tylenol, if you don't have liver problems, or if it's ibuprofen you want to take, make sure you take it, don't take it on an empty stomach. Make sure you eat and make sure you don't abuse the medication. That's the key word. Do not abuse any medication.
Okay, thank you so much. Let's hold it there, and well, let's go on this quick break. On when we come back, we continue from there. If you're just joining us, the program is Let's Talk, and we've been discussing the topic, dangers of self-medication. My guest has been Dr. Nikki Gesh-Oye. So let's continue from there. Before we went on that break, you were actually emphasizing on the dangers inherent in self-medication. So now my next question is, are there guidelines on how to stop self-medication?
If I don't know if guideline is the word, I would say, as I mentioned before, if you have a headache, that maybe is caused by stress, or you overworked yourself, or we do have headaches here and there, and you'd be like, oh, I'm gonna take Tylenol for it. But then if your symptom does not go away after a couple of days, then you may want to look into seeing a doctor for it. Or I would say after a few days to like weeks, it's still going on and on, I would say it's time. I'll say it's time for you to see a doctor because something else might be going on with you. So I'm not saying you should run to the doctor at every slight moment something happens to you. You know what I mean? So yeah, follow up with the doctor, let the doctor know what's going on. It might just be a phone call. You don't have to go all the way in. It might just be a phone call. Hey, doctor, this is what is going on with me. What do you advise that I do? I've had this headaches. I keep taking Tylenol for it. It goes away for like an hour. It comes right back. A lot of people have headaches, but then there's an underlying condition causing the headache. Some people have tumors, So self-diagnose or self-medication is not totally, I would say the disadvantages are more than the advantages, but we do have some advantages to it. And that's why I always bring up self-diagnosis also with self-medication, because as I said, you need to have a diagnosis, but I mean, sometimes it doesn't have a diagnosis, like you just know you have a headache. So headache is a diagnosis on itself by itself, right? Or if it's a primary headache. But then some people have actually gone ahead to find, like for diagnosis, some people have actually gone to find a breast cancer themselves without even a doctor's intervention. We always say, do your breast self-exam at home, right? And some people found a lump on their breast. Some people found prostate cancer by themselves, and then they were like, wow, I have a lump. And then they go in for checkup and the doctor confirms it or denies the diagnosis. But so it's not all bad and all, but the disadvantages of self-medication should be emphasized. It should be, in as much as we want to save costs, because that's one of the advantages that people will say, oh, I self-medicated myself and I did not have to spend so thousands of naira or so thousands of dollars at a doctor's office. We know that these medications, prescription medication, they cost a lot, especially if you don't have insurance. If you don't have insurance, you're on your own, right? So these medications cost a lot of money. So if people that's the argument that people say, well, I self-medicated myself and my symptoms are gone. I didn't have to spend all that money, at the hospital or to get the prescription medication. It's the same medication that they would give me at the hospital that I used at home. Well, lucky you, right? But some people might not be that lucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, some people might not be that lucky. Some medication that you may use may kill somebody else.
All right, I want to take you up on the what you said about having to give your doctor a call. Let's look at the countries, nations of the world that do not have those facilities, that cannot just get a doctor at their beck and call, or would have to go and queue, or might not even have, even when you get to the hospitals, if you don't have money to put down, you might not be attended to. What do you have to say to this particular set of people?
It's a sad situation. It baffles me. It's very, I don't even know what English word to use. It saddens me when this happens, and I see that all the time. Like, I see documentaries or videos on YouTube about people, simple things that I, when they show the video, I know exactly what it is that the person is suffering from, and I'm like, oh my God, just because of healthcare problems, they cannot access healthcare. It pains me a lot, and hopefully things will get better for this communities and these countries. We have a lot of missions, healthcare missions going on. We have a lot of healthcare workers traveling back home to give back to their motherland, to help out. I don't know if you've heard about mercy ships. There's a huge ship that goes towards like African countries, and they do surgeries for variety of conditions. So I know it's hard, and I don't even have a short and sweet answer for this type of people, but I would say do everything that you can to seek help. Do everything that you can to seek help, because if you have a condition or a problem and it keeps recurring, all right, self-medicating, you just take medications, you take herbs. Trust me, the herbs might work temporarily. You may feel relief, but they might not cure what is going on with you. You know what I mean? If you have cancer, it may subside the side effects from the cancer. It may subside, things that you're feeling from the cancer, but it might not. I mean, there's really no cure for cancer. You know what I mean? But you may feel that relief temporarily, but then on the long term, the disease is still there. And I feel bad for these people because they don't have a voice. We are their voices. We are the ones that will try as much as possible to make it better for them. And that's why, every chance that we get or I get, I try to give back to my community, to the motherland back home. You know what I mean? Like, there are free healthcare resources out there. There are free healthcare resources, even though I see a lot of people that live in remote places having to travel miles and miles and miles to go and get this treatment. But we have some doctors that are very they're humanitarians. They try to help these people out free of charge. Reach out one way or the other to these organizations. We have a lot of organizations out there now that can do different procedures for free if you're really in need and you don't have the money. But as I said, self-medication can help temporarily for some things, and it can actually work for a lot of things, like minor ailments. You have a cold, you know what I mean? I still use the, you know, old remedies too. Like, I have my kids have a cold, if I don't want to give them, or in addition to, giving them like Robitussin or anything like that, you put the good old rub, Vicks Vapor Rub on their chest, on their back, and things like that. Those things work, they work. But then for major healthcare problems, it may not work. It may mask the symptoms, mask it, treat it temporarily, but on the long term, it's still there. Okay. But yeah, we can't bash everything, that our old, our forefathers or our great grandfathers or our parents taught us. We can't bash everything. There's some good things about it, but then, as I said, the disadvantages are more than the advantages.
So, what is the role of government at all levels in solving this long overdue problem?
I guess each country is different, right? You can't compare the US, where we are, right, to, for example, Nigeria or any other African country. It all boils down to the priorities of these people. If I don't know how some governments, or they don't hold the lives of their citizens very important. I don't know if you understand what I'm saying. I guess it depends on the priority. All right, do if they really feel for these people, they will do something about the healthcare system for them. They will make sure that their hospitals, that are good and they're top notch. They have the basic amenities. Imagine people dying because there's no oxygen in a hospital. Have you heard about that? That is saddening to me. Like, I'm hearing stories about just basic oxygen. They don't have it. You know what I mean? So at different levels, they should rise up and do something, because this is not acceptable on any level. Here in the US, even in Canada, some other, countries, you will see, oh, they have free healthcare, right? They have free healthcare. They go in for their kids, for themselves. They go in, they get treatment, they get vaccinations free of charge. I mean, you have to have insurance, but still, you can't compare it to like an African country where like you have to struggle for everything. You have to struggle to see the doctor. You have to struggle for basic treatment that should be a necessity. It should be essential for every citizen to have. And that's why the local, state, and the federal government should come together, find a way to combat this problem, because it's a huge problem, among other things that I don't want to even go into today, that is going on. And it's so sad that people just die like fowls just because of the smallest thing that could have been taken care of just like that. You know what I mean? And so I know private hospitals are doing their best, and the public hospitals too, they're doing their best. But what can they do if they don't have the resources? They can only do as much as they can, right? With the few resources that they have.
Thank you so much. It's been wonderful having you. On the final note, what do you have to say to people, or the kind of advice would you like to give to people?
So as I said before, self-medication, I would say the disadvantages of self-medication is more than the advantages of self-medication. And I want you to please consult with your healthcare provider. We have specialists, we have providers suffering from, and give you the appropriate guidance and treatment plan. All right, regarding what you have. And also, do not take medications from family members. People do that all the time. I hear people say, oh, I had a urinary tract infection 2 months ago. I still have leftover antibiotics. Here, take. No, you shouldn't even have the leftover medication to begin with, right? You should not, because antibiotics are given for a certain period of time. So they give you, for example, if it's take twice a day for 5 days, 7 days, or 10 days, you should have finished your medication before, right? You should have leftover to give to somebody else. What if that person is allergic to that medication? You keep abusing medication and it causes resistance, especially antibiotics. And so that's why I always say, do not do that. Do not take medication from other people to use. Do not. And don't say, I heard that this works for that person, I'm gonna take it. Because what the person is doing, and doing for their health is not what you're doing for your health as well.
Thank you so much,
So I hope
Dr.
this
Nikki.
helps.
Yes, it does. Thank you so much once again. And thank you too for joining us on this episode, on this edition of Let's Talk. I hope you've learned something about self-medication. And if you are someone who actually does this all the time, it's time for you to take caution so that you won't be sorry for yourself. Until next time, when I come your way again with another exciting topic, I remain Oluja Kemasako. Bye for now.